Hello, I'm Keith Dyer. I'm the editor of the Mobile Network here at Mobile World Congress 2024. We're going to be talking about the Softwarised network, what it is, and how to get there. And to help us do that, I'm delighted to say we've assembled a really good panel with speakers from Intel, from Telefonica, and from Mavenir to share their experiences and also their vision. So, guys, thanks for joining us. Maybe just to start, tell us who you are and how you engage with this topic of the Softwarised network.
Yeah, so I'm an architect at Intel. So we did one of the industry's first virtualized network stack in layer 1 called FlexRAN. We talk about softwarization of the network. Layer 1 RAN was the last bastion of it. So we created the software reference platform. So a lot of this new deployments that you see being announced all around is actually built on that. So we architected that, we have facilitated that to the industry. We had long partnership with Mavenir, Telefonicas of the world.
And you're in the core and you have a huge partner ecosystem.
And packet code is, I mean, if you talk about the softwarization of the network, it's really the packet code first, took it into it. And then now the last bastion is the RAN part of it.
And Cayetano, tell us about Telefonica. I've heard your CTIO, Enrique Blanco, talk quite a lot about the softwarized network and how to get there. Where are you figuring in that?
For sure, we are very vocal about softwarized network and cloud native network because this is bringing us a lot of advantages. As you say, I'm Cayetano Carkbajo. I'm leading core transport and service platform in the corporate technical unit of Telefonica for the global CTIO and reporting to Enrique Blanco. For sure, we are pushing the softwarization of the network in all the network layers, especially in the core. We want to take advantage of all the cloud technologies. So, in terms of automation, in terms of reliability, in terms of agility, we have to learn from cloud and bringing these advantages to the network. Not only that, I mean, 5G standard is microservice and microservice over container. It's a cloud technology for sure. We have to use cloud native technology. So we're working on that.
Yeah, sure, and we'll get to that for sure. Bejoy, tell us a bit about who you are and what Mavenir is doing in this topic.
So Bejoy Pankajakshan, we've had a long history of working with both as a customer and as a key partner for us, and also a strategic investor, by the way. Intel is an investor in Mavenir. See in the back here, actually, it's interesting that we got in this space, right? Our vision statement is around being cloud native, which is the softwarization part of it. But increasingly what we see is the investment go into how do you derive the benefits out of that cloud native network, so AI-driven networks. And by the fact that you are AI-driven and you're cloud native, how can you make the design more green? Especially where we're sitting here in Europe, sustainability is such a key aspect of the overall mission. It's in the board, in every board meeting, they ask for what are your ESG targets. So this is a key focus area for us. And the way we're able to do all of that is because we're so focused in the software side. And Mavenir has a pedigree of being first on many different areas on the software side. We started first with voice over LTE. Even before voice over LTE, we had messaging and others on IP. But every time a transition to cloud has happened, we come in and disrupted that market, be it on the voice space, be it on the packet core space, and since the last 6 to 7 years, working on the RAN space with Open RAN.
Okay, so you've kind of all touched on it really, but when we talk about the softwarized network, can we encapsulate what that means? How do you understand it as the operator?
Well, it is difficult. It is not that we are using cloud infrastructure only. It is that we have the advantages of the automation. For instance, that we can do automated testing and deployment of the function. So CI/CD is a key requirement. For instance, that I can do in-service software upgrade. That means that we can change the software configuration of the software release without having to have a maintenance window. So with the microservice structure, I can change the software without putting down the node. For instance, that we can have auto-healing and auto-scaling, that everything is API and we can expose network APIs. Then everything can be orchestrated and we can do automation with this orchestration. So in summary, there's a lot of requirement that makes the technology more efficient, more easier to operate and more agile. This is the key requirement for a clear cloud-defined network. If you implement that in a public cloud, or in a private cloud, or in a vertical virtualized approach, for me it's not so relevant. What is relevant is that you take advantage really of the technology of the cloud.
Telefonica itself, I know it's a really hard question, but how would you sum up your progress into this? Where are you cloudified? Where are you virtualized? Where are you not?
I think clearly in the core, like any other operator, we have already containerized core, because 5G is microservice, and we have to go there. But even if we have already containerized, we are not extracting yet absolutely all the value that we can have on this containerized network function. We are working in CI/CD/CT. We have pipeline for CI/CD/CT for all our core functions, and we are working in implementing more and more. We are not yet there with the in-service software grade, for putting a couple of examples. So we have the technology implemented, already containerized, but we are not extracting all the value. We are working on that, and we are transforming not only by technological means, but also culture and operational model. We are working on that.
And for you, Bejoy, in terms of understanding what we're talking about in this discussion for the Softwarised network, how would you sum it up in similar terms? I mean, you mentioned a bit before.
I fully aligned with everything Cayetano said. The only thing I'll add there is what's driving the softwarization can be multiple reasons. One is the whole observability angle of able to collect data. Because ultimately, if you're trying to manage your network using less number of people through automation, you need a way to abstract data, and for that you don't want custom OSS backend system, custom tooling that comes with each vendor's product to be able to manage and run the network. If you look, for example, how hyperscalers run their network, they don't have separate tools to run an enterprise application versus serving the retail sector versus an enterprise application serving healthcare sector, as an example, right? So they're able to purely make use of the fact that this is a true softwarized network that's managed using common tooling, and then ultimately also being able to reuse the hardware for different purposes. So I'm not dedicating the hardware for just one purpose. During nighttime, I could use it for something else. So really being able to leverage the benefit of software that can be scaled up and down as needed, the common tooling that comes with AWS or in private network deployments, that will ultimately get you to monetizing the network, because this is the first stage where with OpEx gains, with automation, you reduce the cost of running your network. But by collecting this data, that's where the AI piece comes in as well, right? Once you have access to that data using common methods, putting that into a data mine, and then being able to aggregate and leverage that data for new use cases, that's where we see the next stage of it. But you cannot do that if you're not software based. In fact, you were at an analyst event, right? So somebody was asking the question, would then Ericsson and Nokia with a closed box solution with their hardware, their system, be able to truly get all the benefits of AI? And our response is no, because unless you have access to that data using common methods and able to mine it without dependent on proprietary tooling, it's just going to slow down the whole migration to the cloud.
So he's talking there about some of those enablers that actually get you to that true flexibility. For Intel, you're obviously present in that hardware layer, but also with some of the software as well, right? So how do you enable that? Because I know in Open RAN there are discussions about the level of integration, say, between the FlexRAN platform and the RAN software that runs on top of it, and whether operators want to see portability there or not. So.
Yeah, very much so. The whole thing premise starts with the disaggregation of the hardware and software. You create the software layer and you build on it. And if I go back, how did the whole thing started? I remember 2010-11, there was a seminal paper that China Mobile, of all the people who actually published on Cloud RAN. So they talked about how to actually increase some of the utilization. All my base stations are right now in areas that are hardly being used in many different types, as Bejoy talked about. So from there, say, how do you actually use the cloud technologies? Now, FlexRAN is a reference platform. It's a purely software-based one that you can build many things on top of it. Some of the AI ML aspects of it. We created a reference platform, AI toolkit to develop. There are 3 applications shown in Intel booth. One with AT&T, one with Deutsche Telekom, one with another operator. Different use cases, but you can build many of the other use cases on top of it. But how you can do this thing? Because it's a softwarized network. There are use cases that people want to bring in cell-side routing into the platforms, as opposed to a traditional total hardware box of $8,000, $9,000. How do you do that? Actually, since the software, you have some multi-core elements, a container that is reserved for that, and you can do that. So you can build in many different applications. And the other good thing about this is, if you think about it that way, every G that we did, 3G, 4G, 5G, comes with hardware, software, and all of it. Now you have a platform, and whatever the silicon platform is, you can actually increment. It's a 5G, you can have 5G advanced or additional features you can add on top of it. You don't have to change the elements. So there are a lot of flexibility there.
I'm interested in what you're trying to achieve, right, from a business point of view with this. You know, where's it going for you in terms of, and then we can talk about how you do that, but where are you, what are you trying to do from a business point of view with this?
I guess you mean from monetization point of view, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So
as I said, when you have a softwareized network, you have many more possibilities for exposing network functionality. So network APIs is a key element of our plan for monetizing. You know about Open Gateway. Telefonica has been very vocal about the need of having this movement of exposing service API common among all the operators, and we are working a lot of that. Orchestrating the network and making a flexible network that can have an answer to many requests, different requests in a dynamic way, is as well a key element that will enable monetization. I'm referring especially to slicing. So the fact that we can dedicate a specific slice for a customer or group of customers or for a given service can bring us a very powerful tool for monetizing. And in a softwareized network, no matter if the access, the transport, or the core, you can orchestrate and you can build these slides specifically for a given service. These are a couple of examples, but there are many more. The idea is that in a softwareized network, you have many more possibilities that implementing a service in an agile way.
do you feel you have the capability, like now, if somebody wants to instantiate a slice and you can provision that, configure it, operate it, assure it, close the loop, with the AI, with the automation in the workflow, the customer gets the service. I mean, this is a dream that's been talked about for years, right? So where are you at with that?
This is a dream, but what we have in Telefonica today is that we have manual slicing, and we are already monetizing that. So we have revenue coming from the slicing today. The plan is having more automation of the slicing, for having a kind of dynamicity for the slicing at the end of this year or beginning of next in our key markets. And we believe that at the end of 2025 we can have closed loop automation. That is what you are referring as a dream. Okay?
Yeah.
Telefonica, together with some other operator, we agree on having closed loop automation in 2025, level 4 of automation of TM Forum in 2025. We're working for that.
Okay. As we talk about these sort of steps forward, right? How do you view what the journey should be? You're pointing to the sort of, you know, the AI-enabled messaging behind you. How's that going to fit into your customers?
So, I mean, I'm just writing on top of what Cayetano just said, right? Okay. Just taking the slicing use case as an example. So today, they do static slicing. To truly get to dynamic slicing, if you have to do that, in fact, Singtel had made an announcement, I guess, like last week, talking about on-demand slicing. So think about a scenario where, let's say, we are in this crowded space, and the performance is going to be bad here, right? So even if I've thrown a bunch of capacity in here, just because the sheer volume of people going in and out, you could end up with getting poor quality. So as a user, can I trigger an app-based on-demand slice to say, I want a good experience just during the session. If you're recording this in real time and streaming it, you could actually charge for that event as well. So that's where you're tying together the network analytics with charging analytics. And this is something, unfortunately, that no specs are defining per se, because the work is happening across TM Forum from charging front, across Kamara from an API perspective, then you've got CPaaS players in the mix, and you've got this whole network analytics function, NWDAF and 5G core. So bringing it together and being able to enable these different use cases, so knowing exactly how the user is behaving in your network, how the network is congested or not congested, and being able to adjust for that for SLA. Your question on, are we at that stage where I could dynamically allocate resources and ensure the closed loop service assurance? Getting to that requires us to do this network and charging analytics together, and that's a key next step that we see to enable these different use cases on network monetization.
Okay, and in terms of putting the ecosystem together, I see the telco operators, the European ones are coordinating around Project Silver, which is a sort of cloud management platform. They want to have a sort of common telco cloud reference architecture that vendors, suppliers can work to. We see other open source projects around automation of the telco cloud. Do you feel that the telco cloud still sort of has a bit of defining and specifying to do?
No, actually, it's getting there. I mean, we have an end-to-end platform with actually Mavenir. I mean, we have REST APIs exposed, and I know at least two to three AI companies have built an LLM model on top of it for deployment automation, day zero. In fact, they have somebody calling it day -1, even RF planning also. You know, you show them an area of this thing, you put the layout there, and they will do where the radios are going to be. So there are at least some of the showcases here in this conference about doing that. So putting a large, how easy it was because this REST API is exposed, and then they put elements of it. There's a telco schema. They map the telco terminology with the elements of it, put a GPT 3.5 or 4 into top of it. So I know a company did that in a matter of 2 months. So you can see all these elements are being built on top of it. Now there is always going to be refinement in APIs and others, how to extract all the data from layer 1. There's also a RIC element of it where you can get a lot of XApps and RApps you can develop. So a lot more you will see, but you will see a lot more use cases coming to show what is possible.
Right, we're all frantically agreeing and making it sound easy. There must be
Actually,
challenges.
there's one point I would make on that. I think the Silva layer, the Silva project with Orange and others, is more on the CAS-PaaS layer. So it's trying to, the operators together coming together and trying to see, can I build a product that is like a Red Hat or a VMware? I mean, our opinion is that it's going to be pretty challenging to do something like that, primarily because just look at the evolution of how different vendors in the space have come about. In fact, in Telefonica, LATAM, there's a stack called White Stack. I mean, you're familiar with that, right?
Gotcha.
So just the far number of players in this space, take VMware, Red Hat. Mavenir has our own platform. Under the hood, we use Red Hat. Ericsson has their own version. Nokia gave it up to Red Hat last time. So now trying to build another platform, and remember, that's just one layer of it, right? You have to still build all the automation around it. If you have to do infrastructure orchestration, even before you do application orchestration. So if the infrastructure orchestration tools don't exist, and it's already built in with Red Hat and others, why not just use that? Why go try to build a whole new platform? And are the skill sets there on the operator side to try to manage this? I mean, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, Cayetano.
I think you describe a very easy way, and I think reality is much more difficult, and I agree with you. I think Silva is a good initiative, and Telefonica is supporting. Maybe it's coming a bit late, but it is worth the effort. The situation today is not only Telefonica, but majority of operators in the core, we have vertical virtualized approach. I mean, we are using the CAS from the vendor in majority of the cases. And we have not a transversal approach. Why? Because there has been difficulties in defining this transversal approach in an efficient way, with all the tools we need for automating, and with a huge effort of the different vendors for certifying on top of the platform of the CAS. So I have asked Mavenir in one of my markets to certify on top of VMware, in some other on top of Red Hat, in some other. Maybe I want to go with AWS or with.
Don't go with 5 others because it's a headache for us.
But this is the point. I mean, the effort and the cost for certifying so many different platforms is not making it fly. And when you see the market and the industry and you count the number of demanding network function on top of this transversal CAS, there are not so many. For instance, if you count the number of packet core that are on top of VMware or Red Hat or any other transversal layer, there are not so many cases in the world. That means that we have deployed a vertical virtualized approach. And this is a pity because we are losing synergies and we are losing capability for auto-healing or auto-scaling or reusing capacity, as you said before, for some other services. But this is the reality. It is difficult and we are not yet there. I mean, we have to work a lot for having all our network function in a given network on top of the same CAS.
You have your history with Unica as well, right?
But I think Unica was a great idea and we succeed to have more than 80 network functions on top of Unica. With Unica evolution, that is the containerized Unica, we are far behind that. I mean, we have some network function on top of the common CAS, but we have to work on it.
Yep.
But there just to build on this, even though you have like Red Hat, Wind River, VMware and others, but I know in private network and enterprise, there are attempts going on is say, hey, why do you have to keep paying for there? I mean, I can build this with elements of open source. So you can Ubuntu-based systems and build your CAS elements. There are a lot of components which is basically built on open source. And you can, I mean, what this data do, they'll package it, validate it, support it. You can do many of these things as well. So there are attempts going on.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of.
So you thank you, and you identified like that horizontalization of that layer as a challenge for you. Are there other, what else is difficult? I guess I'm asking for you as the carrier.
I think there are a lot of challenges.
It's all
for
difficult.
sure.
Okay.
And I think the main challenge for the softwarization, in my opinion, is changing the culture and the operational model for
Right.
extracting maximum value of the softwarization. For instance, when I ask one of our operation directors not to do a software upgrade during nighttime because I can do that within service software upgrade. So don't worry, we will not have maintenance window. We will do the upgrade at night, at daytime.
Yeah.
Well, the first time you do is not so easy, as you can imagine. When we ask our operation to deploy a given software with an automatic testing and automatic onboarding, it will take a while. You have to change function. There are functions that are already done by vendors that maybe we can internalize because it will be automated. There are things in this process, in this operational model that has to be changed. So we have many technological challenges, as we mentioned before, but there are some others that are relevant as well, that are these operational model challenges. But this is both a need and an opportunity. The need is that we need to change the operational model. The opportunity is that this change in operational model will allow us to do many more things.
Okay, and I think that change is something Mavenir has talked a little bit about, that sort of AI ops, introducing, sort of AI workflows and pipelines through the process as well. Is that right? Something
Yeah,
that you...
I mean, ultimately, like you said, right, there's multiple phases to this.
Yeah.
Today we are in I'd say, it all depends on where your starting point is. There could be operators out there which are starting greenfield. It's a lot easy for them to go into this full softwarization. Then you've got brownfield operators who may pick a vertical, saying, I'll just do this in the messaging sector, or I do it in the core sector before I touch the RAN. So it's in different phases for different operators is what we're seeing. But what it helps vendors like us is we get the exposure working in different environments. So as an example, in Dish, where we have an open RAN, more than 10,000 sites, we run the DU on VMware, and we run the CU on AWS cloud. If we take Deutsche Telekom, it's a different stack because they have something called DASKIF or TCAS. If you look at BMO2, we've got different stacks for different locations. Like last time I mentioned, there's White Stack, there's VMware involved there. So this, across the globe, it's different infrastructure that's available for different applications.
Yeah.
So we, from a maturity perspective, it's helping us as a vendor make our software stack even more mature, running across these different infrastructure. And as a vendor with around 4,500 employees, if we don't become efficient on that layer, we just can't be sustainable. Because unless we build what's called these abstraction layers, it allows us to actually hide the complexity of the underlying CAS-PAS layers, so that when we port our application to run on AWS or Azure or White Stack, or like you said, in the enterprise space, another third-party vendor, if we have to re-engineer a software every different time, we're just not going to be sustainable. So getting there across our product portfolio is a key strategic investment area for us.
Okay, so talks about some challenges. What have been like some tangible benefits for you that you can point to say, we softwarized or we went virtual, we're cloudified there, and that meant that we got this, whether it's operational improvements or even a business benefit that you can point to?
So for instance, we have implemented our pipeline of CI/CD. We are doing it, and we have some of the network function from Mavenir already implemented with this pipeline. And this has allowed us to do a couple of things. First is doing automatic testing and automatic onboarding of the new software release of the network function, which is a benefit. Second, and more important, has allowed us to increase our level of quality, because we can have homogeneity on the parameterization of the different network nodes in a network. It is automatic, so we are not depending on the human element for parameterizing and configuring the different network nodes. So we can do all the configuration common without that much effort. And this is a tangible benefit already of the softwarization.
Okay. Do you have any sort of partner experiences you can add in that?
Yeah, I mean, we have been partnering and delivering virtualized network. Started with LTE in 2018 in Japan. That was a greenfield opportunity, and then moved to 5G. But brownfield like Verizon, now already deploying in scale, in massive MIMO. In US, Bejoy talked about Dish and others. So all of this discussion starts with the TCO. There is an operation component of it, the OpEx element of it. How do you realize that? Some of the automation aspects of it. I know in Japan, these guys actually published documents showing the maintenance and how much cut the cost has been reduced. Because in many cases they have even used IT resources as opposed to the expensive telecom resources. But automation itself has brought in a lot of those benefits.
Yeah.
Still long way to go, but I think as we are partnering and deploying this network for the last 5 years, a lot of learning there.
And you touched on APIs and maybe that idea of that sort of more programmable, network. And you mentioned Unica, which is an interesting thing because it takes us back through some of the history of this. So
yeah, I was trying to say, you had Unica, now we got Silver, cross operator, so it's not something new is what I was saying.
No, but it made me think, how do we now sort of encapsulate where we are now? How positive should we be about progress over the next couple of years? When are we going to get, maybe not the dream, but some element of that sort of automated programmable services capability within the network?
We have to be there. I mean, we have a commitment for having, for instance, closed loop automation in 2025.
Right.
So we will work there. I mean, our target is to have to maximize the benefit of cloudification or cloud native implementation in the next couple of years. That doesn't mean that I will have everything on top of Silva or on top of any transversal layer. I'm not meaning that. I don't care, in fact, what is the infra that is there, what is the CAS. I don't know if I will be in public cloud or in private cloud or in a vertical virtualized approach. What I will do for sure, and this is what we are working on, is the extracting maximum benefit of the softwarisation. So I will have microservice containerized on top of whatever infrastructure, and I will do all the automation and all the increase in reliability that I need to do.
Okay, and if we had this panel in 2 years' time, would we be saying the same things? I mean, how positive are you about real gains to be made?
I hope not, that we're not having this conversation on how ready we are. It is actually what benefits you're seeing with AI tooling, and you're not at a phase where you're just experimenting, right? So we can't affirm. At the end, operators today are not like making tons of new revenue in 5G, right? So a lot of it is about getting to lower cost per bit. Then if you have to get a lower cost per bit, you have to utilize tools like AI, tools around automation. And if that's not there, the cost will continue to be high, and it's a race to the bottom, because if operators don't make money, vendors don't make money. And that ecosystem just doesn't survive and just flourish like you have the ecosystem of the hyperscalers and the OTT players, right? So we want to get there, and the only way you could get there is through softwarization and through automation.
I mean, there's some negativity, realism around telcos saying, they can't get return on investment capital in the network. Is this sort of platform we're talking about really the only way out for them from here?
It is, because even if you talk about what's coming next, and if you ever talk about 6G, many of the operators are basically saying, don't start with a new rack. Figure out a way for me to add more services. So there is this concept of wide area cloud in the next G alliance. How does it actually expose the whole thing so that you can add a lot of services to it? So a softwarized platform will actually enable that. So 2 years down the road, you talked about that. I'm hoping that we'll talk about much more services being built on it, and operators are actually monetizing many of those aspects of it. I'll tell you one thing. I mean, one of the US operators told me that, hey, I have more information about my subscriber, but Google is making more money. How is it possible? So, well, I'm hoping that as you create the platform like this and more services can be built on top of it, there will be more monetization opportunities.
Okay, good. Well, it's been really good to get positivity, which I appreciate, but also some real-world experiences of where you are. I'd like to thank Bejoy and Cayetano and Udayan for their time, and I'd like to thank you all for watching. Thank you.